Good morning.
Good morning. That is Edwin Robinson's voice, if I know a voice.
Yes. Good to see you and everyone.
Welcome, sir. And it really is exciting to see you all. I know we all miss each other, and it's been a wild ride of a year. Not all bad things. There's a lot of good things that have happened this year, both in terms of the nation, in terms of our city, and hopefully for you and your students, right? I mean, hopefully there's some students that you actually made connections with in this kind of strange flat space that maybe didn't always rise up in person, were shy or nervous, or they came out in their writing, or maybe they became video producers for you. Maybe they helped each other, mentored other students, lent out a hand in any way, maybe even reached out to you and you had conversations with them about what's going on in their world, challenges. There's all the things that you guys do every year anyway. But it happened, right? This year happened, and I think we shouldn't dismiss 2020. We should never dismiss life. We have to learn from it, but also just say like this is not what we want. Right? We are a live art form. We're meant to be in person with students, and we're gonna have time to process. And throughout the summer or maybe in the fall, Callie and I might be reaching out to get your feedback on what could be salvaged from 2020. What did you learn that could be carried forward in whatever blended learning means? Um, but today our focus is going to be really on um, the professional development, professional learning community, kind of shrink the space so we can still feel like a community even if we're in this kind of Zoom world. Hearing from some colleagues, hearing from Keeshon Morrow, who many of you know from Repertory High School, and some beautiful work that he and his students have been doing in this time, and really actually taking advantage of this virtual space in some ways. And then we'll hear from some colleagues from Box Mime to get us moving. And then I'll be sharing with you kind of some things for next year. And throughout, we'll have a chance for Q&A and time to talk, etc. This is a 10 to 12:30 frame. And if you need to go do something, of course, just do as you would, just turn your video off and mute yourself and come back. But I'm going to go ahead and get us started. If everybody's good with that. You guys good? You can unmute for a second. Just let me hear a cheer.
Woo!
Hear your voices. That is our collective spirit, and all focus on our youth. And we have to just, for all the applause I want to give you as first responders this year for your students, I want to applaud your students. Those that were able to show up every day, those that showed up sometimes, but every single student struggled this year, no matter what the circumstances, and some were really rough. And so just, when you see them again, just give them respect and love from me and from all of your colleagues here, and how proud we are that they did it as students, as artists, and try to remain creative. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. Just also, if we can welcome back Callie McLone, everybody. Callie's back from maternity leave. So you can hear the muted applause.
Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Huge thank you to Daryl Embry, who's always helped out with our department, but this year especially, he stepped in and really picked up huge shoes to fill with Callie. Well, Callie has small feet, I'm sure, but big shoes to fill in Callie's work. And so now they're both with us on this call today. And so what I want to do is go back to sharing the screen and just share a couple of thoughts before I turn over to a friend and good colleague, Keeshon, and his students. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So this session I'm calling Back to the Future, because we are going back to in person, and we're going back to something, but we don't exactly know what it is. Everybody's been through the ringer, but we've also learned a lot. And so I wanted to just share a couple thoughts with you guys. Let's see if I can get a slide. Okay. So this year, there's not a single school leader, not a single teacher in the entire city of New York, 1,700 schools, 120,000 employees, 1.1 million students, who knew what we were doing, who knew what we were going into. There was no roadmap. It wasn't like 2 years ago we said we're going to plan for a pandemic when everything is shut down and we will be only virtually learning. And I really want to acknowledge that because anything that was successful this year should really be recognized. And kudos to you all for taking the work to another level. What I wanted to share here is that you are situated perhaps more better than any other teacher in a school to go back to the future. Because what we all know is after this pandemic year and after the year of acknowledging racial injustice and the unsettledness of the election and January 6th, everything that's gone on outside of the virus, our students need to be able to process through social emotional learning. Every school principal is talking about it, but it's an abstract for a lot of people. They're not exactly sure how to do that. Social workers know how to do it, guidance counselors know how to do it, but do content specialists know how to embed social emotional learning in their content? And it's grounded in the work that you do. And so I just wanted to share that with you, that you are pivotal in your role because it's in the work. It's not let's talk about social emotional learning now. It's let's do the theater work. And in order to figure out where we are, we have to look at our habits of mind, our habits of practice, our habits of action, our habits of community, right? Our check-in, to do the hard work of building ensemble, of building that process. And so I just wanted to share the idea that we're not necessarily worried about roads, because from your perspective, we want our kids to soar. So who needs a road when it's time to fly, when it's time to sing, and when it's time to hold on to each other and figure it out as we go? So I just wanted to let you know that I'm thrilled for our students that they have you, that they will be able to soar as individuals and even more importantly as a collective, that we will get through this, that this next year is not only about processing what happened, but it should absolutely be looking forward and the chance to create again and be expressive again and have joy again and community again and individual expression again. And yes, to keep the pressure on looking at what's happened in our world and making sure that we're reflective about it. But not only just to kind of be worried, but to be hopeful and optimistic. So with that, I'd like to just kind of just frame the day for you. Our first session with Keeshon, Morrow, and some of his students from Repertory High School are going to be looking at the session one title, Urgent Racially Conscious Conversations with Students. Our second session after that will be with our Broken Box Mime colleagues, looking at theater gesture and nonverbal communication. Then we will all come back and we'll do a little bit of a wrap up. Again, there'll be time for conversations throughout. And so I wanted to just kind of introduce Keeshon with this frame. This is a still frame shot from a Zoom conversation that Keeshon produced. You'll see colleagues from the professional world and you'll see some student names, although you might not know them. The question came up, to what extent can non-Black collaborators work to amplify voices of Black people and celebrate Black excellence in theater? I don't want to set it up too much. I'm going to let Keeshon and his fantastic students who will be joining us do that. But just to note, you see there's an image of The Wiz, a poster that one of his students produced, a beautiful poster. And in the process of doing this work, which is certainly a show, it's African-American show, African-American cast traditionally, the question came up about non-Black performers and roles and what is their role, and thinking again in terms of casting and all the conversations that our country's been having. And I just want to just really give major kudos to Keeshon as a theater educator and an artist. He did not shy away from the questions that the students had. He actually leaned in on it and said, if we want to talk about it, let's really talk about it. So I'm going to unshare now. And I'm going to welcome your friend and ours, Keeshon. Morrow, Keeshon, are you there?
It feels so good to be here, to be back in this space, be surrounded by like-minded theater educators. So thank you, Peter, and your team for this opportunity to share the work that we've been doing at Repertory. This work has obviously didn't start this year. We have been primed for a situation and a conversation like this with the work that we've been doing that has consistently been led by students. I think one of the most amazing revelations through this process has been one of the students who I believe is here, Misa, said to me, Misa Love said, you know, we asked for this. We wanted this. We wanted to do this show for the last 4 years. So they've been the catalysts for putting in place what we need to do to be at the place that we could have this engage in this conversation and have a thoughtful and successful not only production but process doing the Wiz. So I think that, you know, what you may see as a theme throughout is centering students' voices and making sure that there's spaces for them to be heard, and that you continue to work to amplify their voices, which I know is intrinsic to our work as theater educators. So parlaying that into other situations and conversations outside of the theater classroom or within the theater classroom, where we can really dive into some of this material. So this production is a part of our advanced musical theater class, which is one of our advanced ensembles, which are eligible to our upperclassmen. And when I chose this play, I chose to do the Wiz, you know, I had students in mind. There was a lot of conversations that involved the students when choosing plays, especially because I wanted to be thoughtful about choosing a play that centered Black storytelling and Black creatives. And they were a big part of that conversation of how to do it, what context. Should it be a class? Should it be the all-school show? What are the ramifications of that? And really making sure that we were talking to students that represented all racial demographics, thinking about how we serve all our students best. But we came up with doing Wiz, and I think that, you know, reflecting on this process, I was even we chose it before we knew the pandemic was happening, right? Or maybe the pandemic we thought was still going to be over in 2 weeks when we were first getting into this. But I didn't plan to do it. We didn't plan to do it virtually. But one of the beautiful things is that you'll see that when we had this panel discussion that you're going to see a part of, it was our first day back in the building of blended learning. And it was a really powerful moment to be back and engaged in this work in person. So we chose the Wiz. We partner with the Roundabout Theater Company, and I've worked with Michael Fink, who's a teaching artist, music director, and musical theater writer there for the last 3 years in this capacity. And I also this year had a student teacher from City College, from which is my alma mater. So we had a team set in place, and I prepped the team, right, Michael and Michael, about the process and about how we came to this place, and acknowledged the fact that they were two white men embarking on this journey of the Wiz. And we thought we were prepared, and we were, but the students continued to complicate it in the most beautiful way and speak their truth super authentically. So that is kind of the context of where we came into this. And then it was in week 5 where the student teacher, Michael Tuck, took over and led a lesson of character study and character development, all within the guise of centering Blackness, right, and talking about Blackness and Black excellence in a very positive way. And then the students felt the need to bring up some things that were troubling them that week. So we were still fully remote, and we paused the lesson, obviously, and made space for them to voice those concerns to us. And I'll also say this class only meets once a week. So it was, I was gifted with the time to respond, to react, to gather information, to meet with people, to talk to different stakeholders about how we move forward. But I would love to stop talking a little bit. And I saw that there are several of my students here. And I was wondering, Jed, if you could start us off by talking to us about what the problem was that was brought to our attention. If you could go on mic and on video, Jed. Jed is one of the co-directors of the class and a senior at Repertory.
Hi, I'm not sure if I'll be able to turn on my camera right now, but I will later on.
No problem.
The main question I think, uh, the main question I think we grappled with throughout this production is like how authentic it would be if the whole cast wasn't Black. Because there is a significant difference between The Wiz and The Wizard of Oz, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing the show right and like serving it justice. And I think the cast definitely would literally stop class just to discuss our discomfort. And we thought it was more important to have those conversations even before we stepped into the work at all. Morrow brought up how class week 5, I believe, Tuck came in with a Black icons lesson plan. And one of the questions was from Justin, who plays the monkey, like, how am I as a Black person going to play the monkey? Like seeing those like stereotypes and like negative connotations that has with Black people, how am I going to express this? And you know, one week during those discussions, we came with some demands that were basically saying like, okay, if we're going to put on this production with this cast, we need to have Black guest artists involved. We need to have context teaching as we go through the show, and not just like a one and done teaching. And then we got to hear from the panel of Black and non-Black artists in the theater world, and they gave us their own input on how we could make this work. And something that Troy Burton said that I think we'll play a clip, right, Morrow?
Yeah. So yeah,
But, if it's not in that clip, something that he said that really resonated in that panel was, we have the chance to do whatever we want with the story. Like, what does the Wiz look like in 2021? How does it resonate today? And we have the chance to make it represent a coming together of folks who have all different. Okay.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Jed. We're going to continue to talk even further about your reaction to the panel, but I just thank you so much for that context. I saw that Misa and Naja are also here, as well as Jenna. Do any of you want to chime in and give a little bit more context to what happened? We are going to look at a large chunk of this panel discussion that we put together, but I just wanted to give opportunity for Jenna, Naja, or Misa to chime in as well.
Hi, I'm Issa Love. I'm playing Eveline in The Wiz, and Jed said it beautifully. Just our main concern was having, well, we had a few, but having Black teaching artists helping us in all Black cast. That's what we would have, that's how we grew up on The Wiz. That's the thing. As Black kids, we grew up on The Wiz. My mom, whenever it was cleaning day, she was singing home. Like that was just how it was. My other friend, Justin, he was listening to The Wiz in the womb. That's, he said, like, we have those connections to it. And the one thing, like, I always wanted to like let Morrow know, because again, we were on a time crunch. We were doing only one day a week. It was a lot. But I was like, we can't do it fast. We have to do it right. Because The Wiz is such an important show, and it's been important just in the Black culture and the Black community. So not doing it right, that's doing the show injustice. Doing it fast and not getting the real key points that need to be hit is not doing the show justice. And that's what we've been trying to get the show done for 4 years. And of course it happens under these conditions, but we make the best of it, and we take our time, and we do what we need to do at home. We do what we need to do after school, because it's that important to us. Because at the first, like, we were just so, it's not the way we want it to be, but it's like, how can we really shape it to really become what we need it to be in the story that needs to be told. With me, when we were doing a lot of character work and behind the scenes, being Eveline, I had to really see, okay, because in all reality, Eveline would be painted as an angry Black woman. And having to compare, like, okay, what does your character look like as a celebrity now? Or like, what's the modernized version of your character? I wanted to be very clear, like, if Eveline was a person, she'd have the angry Black woman stereotype attached to her. And I need to understand that she is also human. She is the villain in the story, but she's also human, and she has her reasons and she has her own things going on. And that contributes to the evil things that she does, but humanizing her, and really, she's a Black woman. So giving her that life, giving her that story, and making sure everyone else knows that story and everyone else respects that story. So that was just, we went through a lot of things because The Wiz is an important show. And it's an important show for me, and I want people to enjoy it, and I want it to be real. I don't want it to just be, oh yeah, we threw it together. Oh, it wasn't the best because it was virtual. No, because we can make it good if it's virtual. We've seen that. The Schubert Festival, we've seen it. So these shows can be good. But yeah, thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
So we're gonna get into the panel. So I love how, even in hearing from Jed and Misa Love, the students continue to complicate the show and talk about how the show itself also is problematic and how we can address that. So I dropped into the chat the bios of our panelists. So take a look at that so we can be efficient on time, so you know who you're talking to. But I tried to put together a diverse panel of theater professionals, not only racially, but also within their job types. I acknowledge the fact that I do not have a completely representative panel of all races and all jobs in theater. But, I wanted to get the conversation going, and I wanted also to push the conversation because, like Peter had mentioned at the top, we were at a moment, right? This kind of all came at a head when theater was paused and we were starting to re-examine how theater is going to reopen professionally. But all the panelists agreed to the following. We made some agreements at the beginning that I cut out of the video that we're going to see, but that everyone today is committed to making the theater industry and the world at large more equitable, right? Each person on the panel, right? We acknowledge the fact that as an individual and their thoughts, beliefs, and opinions are only their own, and they don't speak for any entire racialized group or company or institution. It was really important for me that all the panelists be paid for the work they're doing. I think that as a Black person, I have been asked to do the work of Black people on behalf of primarily white institutions for free. And I've started to find that very problematic. So as a person who was asking people to continue doing this work, it was very important for me to know, for me to pay them, and for that to be transparent as well to the students. And again, acknowledging the fact that, right, while I try to put together the most diverse panel, I acknowledge the fact that many perspectives and experience were not represented in this panel. So here is, right, this panel discussion was an hour and a half long nearly. So here's 25 minutes that has distilled this down. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to take a look at this panel discussion. And then we're going to hear from students about how we move forward from it, and then open it up for Q&A.
There's a feeling here inside that I cannot hide, and I know I try, but it's turning me around.
But here we are. Thank you for being here. Let's jump into it. So our discussion question today is going to center on, to what extent can non-Black collaborators work to amplify the voices of Black people and celebrate Black excellence in theater?
That question to me always reverts back into, well, I've been in this business for so long, and behind every table I've done, every show I've done, the table, even a show where it's all Black, the table is everyone who is white. Directors, producers. I even thought of, I've never worked with any Black director or Black director, choreographer, or music director. And I think about that a lot. So to non-Black people, I think, listen to your Black voices, listen to us, listen to, if we're saying this is what needs to happen. We're not saying it to be hierarchy. We're just telling you this is what it needs to be done is. I think we have to get to that point, because it serves your work, because you actually have people part of it to help tell the work. It's only going to help the work and keep it. If you keep it to you and don't want it to change it, then it's going to be whack. That's just-
As a casting director, as a white casting director, I believe that change will only come when we have change behind the table and in front of the table. And I think that we need to eliminate the notion of tables in general as best we can. I think that more transparency about the casting process, but also the you know, how we're staffing productions. There's a lot of talk about the changes of the last year and all that, and I don't think it's because I can say it's not because this is the first time these things are being said. It's the first time that certain people are hearing them. I include myself in that community. I include myself as someone who, through you know, my own bias, I've caused harm. I think that we all have to accept where we fall in the scheme of things. I think that one way that I can personally hold myself accountable, and that within our community we're trying to do that, is by creating paid opportunities for people to enter this field. But it's a priority for me for that to be someone who can represent communities that I don't represent, so that we can have a more rounded approach to the work anytime we're doing the work.
Thank you. I'm hearing a lot about the change and how the change is coming. So Jen, I'm wondering if you could talk about your experience on Eclipsed and your role there. And
Definitely. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm a lighting designer, and no one ever wants to know what a lighting designer thinks about these things. So I'm really happy and honored to be here. I lit Eclipsed, which had not an all black I'm white. It had not an all black design team, but the writer, director, stage management, the entire cast was black. And it was a beautiful, glorious experience. I mean, Liesl Tommy is the director. And I feel like it wasn't really until I worked with Liesl, like 5 years ago, that I really retribution. I feel like I can empower myself. And if you feel like you're not a casting director, a director, a powerful person, like, you can say no to something if you don't think you're supposed to be there. Like, I can say, like, who's the rest of this team? Like, I don't think like I should be here, or you know, this should not be a homogenous group. Or I can also affect the people I can hire and make sure that I am not hiring a homogenous group of people. But like, I feel like if you're here, you're excellent, right? So how do we get more excellent people that aren't white, straight men in the room, right? So if you're here, you're excellent. You don't have to worry about that, but we just need to work on getting more folks in the room. And as myself, you know, I'm learning that I like totally use the patriarchy to get myself here, because I had no other, I didn't know how. I didn't know how to be a woman lighting designer without making it work, you know, in the system. So I'm really excited to show up for especially young women, to say, like, you can be the woman you want to be. You don't have to fit a certain role. You can be the woman you want to be and show up in this room. And, you know, that takes being humble and humane and collaborating and saying what you don't know and naming your own limitations, and working together. So that's a lighting designer's point of view.
My name is Lane Marsh. I'm a general manager on Broadway. I'm going to throw some numbers out at you first. Broadway started doing performances in 1860. In that time, there have been over 3,000 musicals produced on Broadway. Of those 3,000 musicals, 10 were directed by Black directors. 17 were choreographed by Black choreographers. Each of those cases, it's less than 1%. And not just under 1%, it's way less than 1%. There have been over 8,300 plays produced on Broadway since its inception, 11 Black directors. This is as of the end of 2020. And it has to change. And why is it so few? Because during all of that time, up until the end of 2020, there were only 2 Black lead producers. It has to change. And my office, being a general manager, has to be a huge catalyst to making that change. How can we do that? What my company and others on Broadway are doing is we're partnering with this company, with this organization called the Black Theater Coalition. If you're not familiar with them, look them up. They're doing amazing things. I don't want to be a commercial for them, but I do want to read their mission statement. Their mission statement is to remove the illusion of inclusion by building and sustaining an ethical roadmap that will increase employment opportunities for Black theater professionals, and that's in every genre, whether it's general manager, company manager, stage manager, actor, designer, director, author, to reshape the working ecosystem for those who have been marginalized by systematically racist and biased ideology. Not to be all like, oh, whoa, this is terrible. I do want to point out that New York Times theater writer today wrote that there are 7 new plays by Black writers announced for the next Broadway season when Broadway reopens, which is amazing. You know, after the percentages I gave you earlier, I mean, to have 7 plays or new shows written by Black authors is amazing.
Thank you so much, Lane. I'm going to turn to Candace. I'm so excited to have you here. You did this show with Mr. Tuck, my student teacher in high school, and in a maybe a more similar situation than we are talking about in a professional setting. I wonder if you can speak to how do we do this and do it right in our setting. What do you think, Candace?
Yeah, I mean, this whole conversation, I'm only going to speak from my experience as an actor, as a Black queer woman. Like I can't speak to anybody else's experience, but I do know back when we were doing the Wiz, back in the day when we were doing these productions, you know, the I personally felt as if my voice wasn't, I don't think I even knew how to really use my voice, how to speak out as a Black woman. I think today, looking back, I think what's important is the history of the show being spoken about during the process. And I I I was so proud to see that the students are so engaged in and having these conversations today and opening up more than I would have ever done at that age, at that time, and asking these questions and challenging us today to really look at, are we doing the Wiz because it's a fun show? Are we doing I mean, obviously, yes. Are we doing the Wiz because it's colorful and bright and all? Are we really looking at the importance of what this show represented back then and what it still represents today? And I think the answer for you and your high school and the students is yes. You guys are really taking on really digging in and trying to kind of connect to the importance of where this show really came from and why we're still doing it today. I know coming up, there were a lot of times where I didn't feel like I could speak, and even in the moments, later on in my professional career, there were a lot of times where we weren't listened to. Our non-Black collaborators, I'm just going to go ahead and say white because it's always been white people, white cis men. Um, there's been the fear of being like kind of painted as a racist, or it's time to get past that so that we can start working together and putting these works together in a way that's not just for the fun and glitz and glam of doing theater and doing Broadway and doing these amazing shows, but to also continue to have these teachable moments and to take these moments and put them into our own lives.
I appreciate you sharing your perspective and thank you for being here. Troy, I wonder if you could give us a different perspective as a composer, as a theater maker. Where do you think non-Black collaborators fit into this picture?
In the audience is where I feel like they fit, but to be real. But also, here we are in 2021. The thing that I love most about this conversation is that we're all sitting here grappling with it. And that's how change works, right? We are literally all here like, how the heck do we do this? And something that I'm learning is that perfection is the like kind of enemy of progress. That everything that I work on and do is not going to be perfect, a perfect thing, that there's kind of a state of where things are. And I get to choose when and how I engage. Sometimes the people that are supposed to be leading the process are also in a place of learning. And we have to be willing to all learn together. I feel like I have learned more about race and my own experience as a person in the past 5 years than I knew. If I'd had the language today in like college, I would have burnt the whole university down. Like, things would have been real different right now, right? So I'm showing up on the scene right now in 2021. I don't know if I will ever have a musical on Broadway. I don't think Broadway is ready for me, to be very real with you. I feel like y'all need to do some things, because 10 Lane, there have been 10. Are you serious? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I want to say? I made the choice to fall in love with this art form, and I had the audacity to think that I have a place in it, that is revolutionary and bold and beautiful. And also, I'm not here to save your white institution. Like, if you have not been doing the work or serving, you don't need my play. You know, we have to stop also pretending like it was some mistake that Black people have not been included. It was on purpose. So to rectify it now, we are the inheritors of this. If we want to make a different choice, it takes different decisions. We run into the risk, because this is education, like, right? Y'all, we're learning. Y'all are learning. And the people that are teaching you are also learning. So what do? I call this high risk learning. I love this is my favorite type of learning. I'm also a teacher, and as a teacher, the best things happen in my classroom when I have questions and we all explore them together, right? So the fact that you all are here engaging in this conversation and trying to figure out the way forward is the greatest education you will ever get.
Something that the Black students in this production have been grappling with is the fact that some of the main cast is non-Black, and we feel that the Wiz is about the Black experience. It's unique to Black people, and you can't authentically show the Black experience, a Black story, and the Wiz period with cast members that are non-Black. So
non-Black collaborators need to listen to the Black voices in the room. Michael talked about kind of breaking down the idea of the table altogether and the hierarchy. Of course, I know that in educational contexts, like there are the teachers and there are the students, and there could be a different kind of hierarchy, you know, and who's in positions of authority. It seems to me, based on what I've heard here today, that already everyone who's involved in this process is kind of interested in not always just fitting into that, what we imagine as like the teachers are in charge and the students, we don't need to listen to them. But I would really challenge everyone in this process, especially the white and the non-Black collaborators, the Black students and the Black folks who are involved in this production. It shouldn't be up to you all to, you know, always be playing the heavy and coming in and saying like, no, this doesn't feel right. No, we're the people who know best. You know, that's an unfair burden to place on you. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the way that the world works. And what everybody else can do to remove that burden is to just not question what those folks are saying, to take your lived experience and think about the hierarchy that's usually present in a different way, because maybe the students that are raising those questions are students, but they have the lived experience of being Black people and understanding Black history in a different way than maybe a white teacher does. And so in that moment of that, you know, conflict or question or whatever is coming up, it doesn't actually, that experience should be given equal weight to the fact that maybe you're the person of experience with, you know, music, or you're the person of experience because you're the teacher, or whatever the thing is. I've been in so many conversations, especially in the last 6 months in my institution, where somebody's saying something, I have one job, you know, nobody needs to be stepping on anyone else's toes. I'm the literary manager. I'm not the press agent. I'm not the director. I'm not the whatever. But if I'm the only Black person in a room in a conversation about Black people, I do think that like I should be given some extra amount of attention, or not attention, that's not the right word, but like we need to recalibrate what we think of as expertise and who everybody needs to be listening to in a given moment. Without being disrespectful, of course, and thinking that like, just because I'm Black, I know everything there is to know about this one conversation.
So I guess it just kind of varies with different works, and also, you know, bringing back the works that came before us. and trying to do that today, I think it just kind of depends on the structure of the show, the story. The Wiz, I feel, is one of those shows where we can kind of see a bunch of different colors coming together, because that story and that unity is it helps the show, in my opinion. But I do understand, and I think that's why I took a little pause, because I do completely understand the feeling of wanting to cherish something and hold something close that's sacred for us as Black people, because we didn't get a chance, we weren't able to see ourselves as much. But you also want to keep evolving as a people and progressing as a people, and learning and teaching with each, learning together as a people. And so I think it's a hard question to answer, only because, we're figuring it out today. We're just now having this conversation in 2021.
Well, I think with every revival of anything, like anytime you choose to drudge something up from the depths of the basement that it was in before you touched it, we're always tasked to think about, well, what does this show mean right now? Like in 2021, why are we even doing this? And for me, if there are people that feel like they can breathe new life into the thing, or that there is a different perspective, or that they can take something and it inspires them to do something else, I'm like thrilled by that. So I do wonder, like, what is the Wiz in 2021? Like, what does it mean? It is definitely rooted in Black joy. That's definitely where it came from, but how does it resonate today? I mean, I guess I answer your question with more questions. And my thing is, if you can find answers to that question in your process, that is beautiful. Like, the show that you end up with is whatever, honestly. The process that you engage with right now is what the thing is. That's why we do this, really. Nobody will tell you that. I like rehearsal much more than I like the 8 times a week. So I do wonder, like, how you all are setting up structures for yourself to ask those questions with each other. And for the adults, I wonder, like, how can we make sure that there are safe spaces like this one to talk about it? Um, and how can you set up structures to say, like, this don't feel good to me? And how can you address that in the moment? And how much time does that take? You know?
I think that's the beauty part of, especially with education theater, of having that time to really ask these questions and go through it, where I do find in the business side, there is no time, which I think hinders a lot of process. And especially for the non-Black students who are in roles, the time to do the research and look at the history of the show, the history of what the character is, and maybe the history of why the character was written in that vernacular. I think time is the essence and on our hands, which is great.
We'll ask to our non-Black collaborators in the room if you want to chime in on this as well, because we've heard from 4 voices of color on that answer.
Yeah, I read the casting statement that you sent along, Keeshon, with the in terms of how you were how casting was approached for this production, and clarity of language is so crucial, as is having a reason for doing the shows you're doing. So it's a precarious balance, though, right? Because we're picking the show, but you're also an educational institution where you have students from all backgrounds who are expecting to be educated in their time in that institution. And with that, there's some balance. We have to listen more, but we also I'd rather see the Wiz produced than something else that doesn't celebrate Black creators.
There's a lot of assumptions, right? That, like, how it's done. Like, this is how it's done, right? Speaking to the white people in the room, like, maybe you don't know how it's done. And maybe it's okay to say, like, I understand I'm in this role, and, like, let's work together and figure out, maybe there's a way to ask for permission instead of assuming things, so you can work together. And it's not necessarily an assumption of what this job is. And because maybe there's something to be learned in both directions.
And again, thank you for all showing up today. Thank you for all saying yes. Any final thoughts or words?
I encourage everyone, particularly even just the white folks who are on this call, who were part of the panelists, like everything you're saying about continuing to recommend Black folks for positions, fight the notion that everyone puts out there that, oh, we asked the one Black costume designer that everybody's heard of and she's not available, so now we have to go back to all of the white people. Like, that's not true. We're here in all of these roles. We just haven't been given the opportunities.
Just learn and listen, you know, and keep asking the questions. I think that is the main thing, because even as the adults, the people here, we're learning. And I think it's just everyone learning and listening. Truly, that's like, it's easier said than done, but I think that is the main thing.
I applaud, you know, what I understand in terms of the students speaking up, and also the students being heard by this faculty collective and this community. That's something that we need to mirror better in the professional world. I mean, people pass on jobs all the time. It's rare that I hear why. I want to start hearing why more. I want to start knowing that more, because it might not be evident to me because of my biases, because of my background, because of how I'm approaching the work. So I can, you know, diversify my team and add more people behind the table who can help collaborate in that regard. But I also think that the more we all communally start speaking up about things that don't check out or don't, you know, add value to what's being produced, the more we'll gain as a community. So
I'm just thinking how much I'm learning every day and how much I've learned the past 10 years and how horrified I'm probably going to be in 10 years looking back at me now, and how much more learning I'll have to do until I leave this earth. And also just want to say, you guys are so inspiring, and every generation is so much better than the last, that it's so thrilling. And I have a 4-year-old, and hopefully he'll be in your hands someday.
Thank you for the opportunity to share in this experience today. I applaud all the students for having the courage to say something when you're uncomfortable. I applaud Keeshon for then, as an educator, doing something about it. And I'm proud to serve on this panel with my peers here. And thank you.
I am just grateful. I'm grateful for this conversation. I wish someone would have had this conversation with me when I was in high school and they were telling me I couldn't play Harold Hill. I feel like you all are going to find your way through. I really do. I know, like, I just feel like the right energy is here. I feel like you have amazing leaders and teachers. I feel like you all are grappling with like something that everyone is grappling with. And I think it might be hard sometimes, but I think that in the end, something really beautiful is going to happen.
I think today I want to thank you guys for giving me just a little bit more hope for the future of Broadway, because you guys are the future and y'all are really on the right path. I mean, I am so impressed. I'm just impressed overall by the questions, but just everything. You guys are really, really on the right path, and I can't wait to see you on stage as an audience member or a cast member with you. It would be, you guys are fantastic.
Again, I cannot thank you all enough. I will be in contact with you, and we will have something to show you soon. Thank you for your time and for your energy. Thank you to this amazing cast.
With the things I've been knowing, wind that makes the tall trees bend into leaning. Suddenly the raindrops that fall have a meaning. Sprinkling the seed makes it all clean.
So thank you for going on this journey with us. I want you all to take a moment, like a minute, to give yourselves some time to process that. And I want you to think about your role in your school and I want you to racialize this, right, as a Black educator, a white educator, mixed race educator, Latinx educator. How are you going to be changed by having experienced that 25 minutes of that panel? Really try to define it for yourself. I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. And I want you to write it down, either if you're doing it digitally because we don't use paper anymore, or if you actually are still old school like me and have like note cards that you write on, write it down, right? But also don't forget to racialize it. I think that a lot of times in these conversations, we leave race out of it explicitly. And I think that for me, that has deepened the work. So as a how you racially identify educator, I'm going to, or I will, or I've been changed, blah, blah, blah. Write it down. Because as Peter said earlier, right, we are going to go back to the future, right? We're going to be able to affect change, right? When we get back into our classrooms, we circle up again. So I want to make sure that we are taking all of the best and worst parts of what we've been doing for the last year and a half and make the change that we know needs to happen. I want to hear from some students really quickly. If you could take like 1 minute from the folks we haven't heard from yet that are here from Rep, and tell us about how this panel has changed your process or your thinking. Can I start with Jenna? Jenna Hernandez is a senior. She is a non-Black principal character. She's playing Glinda. And I think that I would love to hear her perspective on how has this work and this panel changed your perspective on how you approach this work. Jenna, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi. Sorry, my lighting is really bad. But for me, the panel discussion it didn't like change my perspective, but it helped me understand how to center Black voices in our show, because that was the whole goal of the panel. How do we as non-Black collaborators center the Black voices? And I feel like the panel helped like us understand how to do that and like ways to go about that. So I think it was really helpful and I learned a lot from it.
Thank you, Jenna. Naja, as Dorothy Gale, Naja is also a senior here at Repertory. What did the panel do for you moving forward as a Black identifying student?
Hi, yeah. So like initially I was all of us really did like have an issue, not an issue, but like had something to say. And I know I was one of the people who really like wasn't happy with how things were going. So after we had the panel and just like hearing from those Black voices and also non-Black voices and just getting their perspectives and like their opinions, not like a weight was kind of lifted, because I felt like, okay, finally we had this conversation. We didn't ignore it. We brought other people in. And we didn't just talk about it. Like after the panel, we did get a Black choreographer and we worked with other Black people. So it was just good to see like our conversation actually have action that allowed us to move forward and like do the show as we're doing it now.
Thank you, Naja. And did I miss anybody else that hasn't spoken that's from Rep? So I know that we heard from Jed and Misa. Did anybody else pop in? Just making sure that I didn't miss anyone. And I think for me, thank you all, Rep students. Something that I kept returning to as my final reflection before we have a couple moments for some Q&A was that, you know, I kept saying this is hard and I wanted to quit, right? I wanted to stop, but I kept returning to I wouldn't want it any other way, right? This is the work, right? This work is hard, but this work is necessary. It is crucial. It is absolutely the work that we should be doing. And I feel very fortunate that I have the students, right, that continue to push me, and the space and time with the community that we have at Repertory to have these conversations, to listen really intently, and to be adaptive in our ways, right, and our change, and be able to change from the listening, right? I think that as theater educators, we are very good at listening, but I am a type A person, and sometimes what I have to work on is, after listening, what do I do, right? What are my next steps? And I think that what I am proud of with the work that we did together as a company on the Wiz is that there were clear next steps, right? That continued the process, that continued the work, and I'm very honored to have taken part of this. I would never do it any other way. I'm going to drop in my email because I could talk to you about this all day, all night. So my email is there. If you want to send me an email, I may not get to it promptly, but I will get to it. I promise. If you want to talk more about this, but let's have I think we have 5 minutes for Q&A. Yeah, I'm going to send it over to Peter.
Yeah, first of all, we'll all talk about what Keeshon just shared with his colleagues. Beautiful work, powerful work, important work, provocative and challenging. I would love to just hear, if we could, Keeshon, from some of the cast, the impact it had on the production and the process. So we heard from you, ladies, thank you, in terms of as a person in your own process and perspective. Did the work, and you might say no, but did the work affect did this conversation affect the work? We heard someone say that a weight lifted off the shoulders. Did that affect the creative process for you? If we could maybe just hear from a couple of you actors, that'd be lovely. And then we'll go into a Q&A with our other teachers.
Can I share?
Yeah,
please jump in.
I'm also a part of the ensemble, and I feel like this panel conversation helped me reimagine what the Wiz could be, because it could represent like a coming together of people who have all been isolated from a society that upholds white supremacy. Because although we aren't all Black, we are also like people of color. We are low income, we are queer, we are trans in this space. And I feel like it was beautiful to see everyone find meaning in that experience. I think Holiday, their character is the lion, and they took that character and saw it from a queer lens. And like how, yeah, I thought that was very beautiful that they did that. And yeah.
Thank you so much. I heard Mr. Morrow refer to you as Jed or Jedediah, however you prefer. Thank you so much. Would anyone else from the cast like to weigh in terms of impact on your creative, on the production itself, on the ensemble more broadly?
I can.
Great, thanks.
I'll start from like the beginning. Like, I'm not a singer. So me auditioning for advanced musical theater was a risk all in itself. And so not really knowing how that was especially virtually. I remember the first time we practiced the song and we were on Zoom and we were all on mute. So I'm like, okay, wait, how do we know if people are actually singing our lips? It was a whole thing. And I was just like, okay, how is this gonna go? But like, as you saw, Troy said, I really do feel like y'all will pull this together and y'all will make this work because the energy is there. And I'm very big on energy and putting the right intention towards things. And that's what we did. And we filmed stuff. I got my first ever costume. Like I love it's like it all really came together. And just always putting positive intention behind things you want to do. That's what I mainly picked up from that panel, and just like with what we want to change and how we want to have more Black directors, Black casting agents, all of that. Like I need to put a positive intention behind that instead of being like, oh, we need to change this, we need to change that. Let me do it. Let me put that positivity into it so I know that it can happen and it can be executed. So that's mainly what I got, and I hope y'all watch it because I think it's going to be really good. So.
Yeah, we will share, Keeshon.
Yeah, let me tell you. So we're going to premiere it on our YouTube channel at Repco HS NYC. I'll give Peter the information, but we're going to do it on Saturday, which I believe is the 19th, but it's the day after Juneteenth to celebrate Juneteenth. So if you need some extra Juneteenth celebration the day after, please join us. I would be remiss if I didn't push back. I love that some people are choosing to share what they've written down in the chat, and I really appreciate that. I honor that, but I continue to push your thinking and to make sure that you are checking in racially, right? How are you coming into this space racially and acknowledging that? I think that is the first step of a lot of this work, is that you have to explicitly name race, isolate race in these conversations. Because if we're not willing to say that I am a white educator or I am a Black educator, then we will not be able to actually dive into the work. So
yeah, and I do want to add one thing to Keeshon. So two things. First of all, thank you, actors, for sharing. I wanted to back what Keeshon just said. the fact that Keeshon is asking you to look at it through a conscious racial lens does not define you only by your race. That's not what Keeshon's saying here. It is a component, right? As a man, as a woman, as transgender, et cetera, your age, the country you come from, there are other factors. So to say that you're looking at it through a racial lens, don't feel that that somehow limits you. It actually is just focusing. I think that's the conversation we're having today, and why I thought this was so powerful. I was in that session. Keeshon asked me if I wanted to be on the panel, and I appreciate that, but I think you understand why I didn't want to be. It was important for me just to listen and to hear. And having been through that session, I wanted you all to hear that too. And just know that Keeshon edited beautifully and about an hour, 45-minute session down to 25 minutes for you. So we have about 5-10 minutes left. I'd love to open it up to teachers. And by the way, you do not need to post your response in the chat. If you want to and make it public, fantastic. But I think Keeshon's charge was for you personally. We don't need to know about it. So either way. So anybody just open up, just go ahead and start talking, and we'll have about 5-10 minute more conversation. And we can revisit this in the fall again if we feel it's important enough to. Not important enough to, if we want to. The floor is open for you, teachers. Did you have a question, Laura?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I think whenever we can do productions again, I want to expand who I have making choices in my production and make it not just be my production. I think that that's really important. I haven't done that in the past. I only did one show and then COVID shut down the other two. But even students, like having student voices more involved in my design and in my production, I think is something that no matter what show I decide to do is something that I'm definitely going to try to do in the future. And you guys inspired me to do that. So thank you.
And thank you, Laura. Yes, feel free, people, to weigh in with a thought, an aha, or a question.
Hi, good morning. Hi, my name is Carol, and thank you so much for this share. And I know that these are high school children. I teach in elementary school, but I remember my cast wanting to have conversations. And I thought I was like, wow, they're just fifth graders. They want to have these brilliant conversations, but also having to struggle with time constraints. And well, oh, this production has to be up at such and such a time. So I think I heard that you started in September.
No, we started, what was it, maybe 19 weeks ago? We started in January. So yeah, and we only met once a week for 1 hour. The students did some work on their own, but yeah, time was something, as a type A theater person, right, that wants to get the show done and wants it to look beautiful, that was something I had to negotiate with for myself, is that, you know, why, like the students were saying, like you heard them saying that, like the priority, right? We knew we would do something would happen, right? We'd have a production, but the priority for this process was the process and taking care of the show. And I will also say, I have 2 mixed race children that are very white presenting, and kids, they're like 6 and 4. And I remember when my oldest was 2, we had conversations about race, right? Students and kids are always ready to talk about this. We have to be ready to rise to the challenge of doing that. I'm a very firm believer is that there's no age that is too young to have conversations about race.
And that's, I think, what I got from this presentation is to really focus on process. And I'm going to have a conversation with my principal, actually.
Right.
Because it's not just, it's, to me, like someone said, it's about the rehearsal and the process. And the show is the cherry on the top, not even the icing. It's like that cherry that's at the top. But everything else that's underneath it, all those ingredients, is what's rich and what I love about the production, and what I think the children and the community can get the most from as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And I think that's right. And I think if you listen to the way Keeshon framed it also, he had to figure out how to introduce the conversation, how to have the conversation, and how to respectfully acknowledge that the conversation needs to then move back into the art, right? Because we all know that we can have analysis paralysis in different areas of life. So how does the work serve the art and the community that you're building? So for your point, Carolyn, you would just be thinking about that at limited time. When would you have these conversations? Probably early on with your young cast, so that it does fuel the work, so that your process leads to product, not instead of it. It's not or, it just makes it a better product.
Yeah, Misa, you wanted to chime in on that?
Yes, because like I said, we've made it clear, we've known Morrow, a lot of us are seniors, so we've known Morrow for 4 years, and we were a part of the Coalition of Racial Equity chapter at our school. So we've had conversations with Morrow. So the one thing now that I'm here and like I can speak to all these teachers, the one thing I will say is get to know your students. And we as students, we respect that and we love that. And you hear us and listen to us and factor in what we have to say. Because yeah, we're young, but we like, I forgot who said it. We go through things outside as Black people. School is not my whole entire, where I go through things outside as a young Black woman. So wanting to hear that, bringing that into the space, especially since we all do theater, that's so important. And it's, I don't know, because we just felt comfortable enough, like, yeah, we gotta tell Morrow, we can't just let this pass, like, but if your students don't feel comfortable enough because they feel like, oh, if we say something, nothing will happen. You know, that's why we listed demands or just like things that we wanted to say that we really wanted to see change, because we have that connection with Morrow, and that is our teacher. And we know that he will hear our voices and do the best that he can to make sure something changes. So that's the one thing, if I could speak to y'all teachers, like really listen to your students and really just accept what they have to say. And if you can change something on their behalf, please do. So that was it.
That was beautiful. And I think you just wrote Keeshon Morrow's recommendation for getting into heaven. that was amazing, Lisa Love. Thank you so much. And I think every teacher on here is glowing and hoping that their students feel the same way, because that transcends theater, right? You just talked about life. Keeshon, we have just about another minute. I want to give you the final word here, and then just welcome a guest who I did not even realize is on this call, who you'll be excited to know was on the Zoom. So Keeshon, any just last words you'd like to share?
I mean, how do I follow what Misa and all the students have said? I will say that if you need another ally, I remember what, like, still ringing in my ear what Carolyn said about the administration, right? I am an assistant principal and a theater teacher. I know that Peter is a great ally, but if you need more allies to have these conversations with your administration about process versus product, let me know, send me an email, because I think that we have to prioritize doing it right, like the students said from the beginning. Like, we can't rush through this and do it just because it's a fun show, like Candace said in the talk. We have to do it for the right reasons, and the right reasons sometimes take time, and then sometimes the right reasons change the way the outcome looks, and maybe sometimes, hopefully, and you know, this is really hard work, and it's work that you may not see the reward for a very long time, like Misa alluded to. A lot of them are seniors that are in this company, and we have been doing this work for 4 years, and then we got to do, like Peter said so beautifully, ground the work in the art, right, and continue to come back to that. So yes, like Misa said, get to know your students, hold those spaces, like Jed said in the chat, so that you can build that trust, that relationship, right, and then you can capitalize on it when the time comes to have these really important, life-changing conversations, right? I think that I am a much different, much better person because of the Wiz and because of our process. So I am just grateful. I'm grateful for you all being here and engaging in this conversation. I'm grateful for our community and the students at Repertory, and again, to Peter for continuing to support all of us in this work and continuing to share this work, right? I think it's an honor of mine to get this, to tell the students, right? I was really excited when I heard from Peter. We debriefed the panel, and he was like, let's figure out how to get a broader audience, right? And I think sharing that with the students, that their work is going to impact so many people, right, is my greatest honor and pleasure. So thank you all. if you like, if you need any kind of allyship in this work, I am here for you to my best capacity. But listen to the kids. The kids are also here for you, right? The students are your best ally and have some of the best the best ideas all the time. So we just can learn to get out of our way and center students' voices. I think that's what I'll leave you with. But I really appreciate this time here. And
oh, thank you, Keeshon. It's mutual respect, and thank you, and thank all the phenomenal, brilliant actors that joined us. The future really is bright. Each of you just beautiful, and I know we all can't wait to see the work, and we'll share that broadly. I do want to acknowledge as a fellow theater teacher, but also an original member from The Wiz. Ben Harney is on the Zoom. I just found out from one of our good friends, Donzel, who's known him for quite a while. Ben Harney is in the original cast of Dreamgirls, other Broadway shows, and from The Wiz, and continues to teach. Mr. Harney, Ben, do you want to just say hello, or I'm happy to just acknowledge your presence?
Yeah, sure. I'm thrilled.
Daryl, can we find him? We can spotlight him.
Yeah, I have to apologize. I was out in the car. I ran in. My laptop. The camera is not working. I hate being incognito. I want to see faces, and I'd love to show mine, but on this computer, it's not working right now. I've been living on Zoom, and I don't know if I burned it out or just bumped it out.
We're good. We see a great picture of you with the director hat, but thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. So I don't know what as I said, I did have to jump back and forth. I really enjoyed the first pre-record, and I'm always thrilled. One of my passions is working with young people, and my company, has focused a lot on that over the past 20 years, 25 years. And the fact that you're doing the Wiz, it holds a particular place in my personal history. Yeah, I did join the original cast 1 week after opening. I'd gotten a scholarship to Juilliard, and I was determined to leave the industry for a while and just go and do that. And then they announced the auditions for the Wiz, and I was just upset. There's nothing like that had been happening, had happened or been happening, and all my friends were going and doing it. George Frizone put his whole Universal dance experience in the show. Dear friends I knew from the concert and from the theater world, singers, oh my God, concert, club, just phenomenal people were involved in it. And I had to say no. But I saw the show in previews. And again, it was an emotional wreck because I wanted to be a part of this energy on Broadway. Nothing like that had been for Black people in my experience. And then my unemployment was running out. So I said, you know what? You got to eat. So they called me because John Parks was a dance captain, had previously contracted to choreograph for this college, and they asked me to come in audition, and they placed me, and then I became Tiger Haynes' understudy. So once again, I joined the original about a week after it opened, and that's my original history with it.
Well, thank you for joining us today. It's an honor to have you with us. Make sure to get your email from Donzel, and I'll connect you with Keeshon, Mr. Morrow, so that he can send you the link to their virtual production of The Wiz for you to see the work that you've heard about today.
Sounds great.
So thank you, sir, for joining us.
Pleasure.
So everybody, we're going to take a second and transition. We're going to go back to, let's see, can we do a regular gallery? Here, great. We're going to welcome, thank you again, Keeshon. In that spirit, hopefully everybody feels alive, more alive than you did at 9:55. And it's hard to sit, right? It's hard to just sit and watch passively. And so I'm thrilled to welcome Becky. Becky Bellman. Is Becky here? Let's find Becky. Is Becky live?
Yes, hi.
Daryl, can you put me in? Okay, there she is. Hey, So Becky founded and is the artistic director with Broken Box Mime, who are artists who work with many of our schools and our students. They're professional in the field also and have been working virtually, unfortunately, for the last year. And I know she's thrilled to get back in person. They have done some really fantastic work that I've been blessed to get to know her and her team this year. And I thought, what a great way to end our June of so many of us sitting behind this, maybe getting up behind a green screen, and you all teaching, right? And then we just heard inspiring words from Keeshon and his team and the panel. How great would it be for us to actually kind of start the art again and go back in and kind of end our day with some exploring of nonverbal communication. We know there's been a lot of lack of communication in the last couple of years. And I think you heard the panel, optimism. And I think it'd be really lovely for us to spend the next 15 minutes or so, 45 minutes with Becky and her team kind of exploring your own space, your own nonverbal voice and connecting. So I'm going to turn it over to Becky.
Great. So I'm gonna jump in, and hopefully if Becky rejoins, we can tag team. Thanks everyone for patience. Yes. Okay, great. So as Becky was saying, yeah, we invite you to find a new space in your brain. Take a few breaths to be ready for this section 2 of the workshop. I see some people have taken the opportunity to stand up. We're going to be exploring physically. Of course, everyone should access that physical work in a way that feels authentic to your body today. Everyone comes to the space with a different physical orientation, and all of this work is completely fine for you to do in a way that feels authentic to you. We welcome cameras on, and but also do what you need to do for your for where you are in space today. And we will let you know when to use the chat. It's a great tool, but we'll offer some opportunities to have some conversation in that space rather than. Please do refrain from entering what can be a parallel conversation in the chat, and we'll have some opportunities for conversation.
Gosh, thanks for setting it up for me. I did the old switch to my phone, so I'm all set. But if you could stay on support on the slides, that would be great, and we can go to the next slide.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. Today's goals. Give a stretch. I'm going to lead that stretch. If you'd like, Tasha, you can press play on the video and read through our goals as you just give your shoulders and your neck a little stretch, whatever your body needs. Thanks, Tasha. And next slide. Here's our agenda, how we're going to participate. Give your arms, your hands, your legs, anything you need. Again, a little stretch before we do our group warm up. In the first part, as Tasha said, we're going to follow along in part 2 breakout rooms, and part 3 will come back together. Ooh. Awesome. Thanks, Tosh. Next slide. Okay, exit slides. For the next part, for about 5 minutes, we're just going to follow along. So you can follow me, spotlight me. I am spotlit, I think. And here we go. Just follow along in silence. Find your corner. Try to keep that finger in the corner. Yeah. Oh. Good. Good. Keep this. Good. Tasha, we're ready for the slides back. Shake it out. Take a breath. Allowing, of course, the last conversation to be as present in your body as it needs to be, in your mind, and also inviting you to be looking at something new here. Okay, what I'd love to do, that's just a brief warm up to start in silence. I want to give a few words, a few vocabulary pieces to what we just did, and then we'll go into our breakout rooms. Okay, next click. Great. And what I'll also say is that we have some other teaching artists on here with you that from Broken Box that we're going to be doing the breakout rooms with. Tasha mentioned that before. So if you would like, you can go into panel view and we'll have everyone, you're invited to turn off your video and hide non-video participants, except for our facilitators who will be here so you can watch them physicalize what I'll be saying with my words. The first thing we did was clicking. A lot of you who have had mime experience or have done this kind of work before, this is what we call clicking. It's when everything in the world of mime has like a magnet on it. And that was this exercise here, and as well as the ball. The negative space is what is the shape of the object, and it shows the audience when it moves from just being my hand to touching something invisible. There's a moment of increased energy and tension in the hand. What I want to also offer is that this is a tool really for committing to an imagined reality. When we're teaching drama to our students, we often talk, Tasha's studied Meisner, and we say, you know, it's the exact same thing. We're trying to be trained in committing to an imagined reality, imagined circumstances. And here, this exercise of clicking gives us the opportunity to do that in a physical way. Next. Then we did isolation, which some of you may have studied. If you have studied mime before, it could be called fixed point. And that is when we hold our body in the same place while we hold our hand or part of our body in the same place while we move our body around in that fixed point or isolation. In mime, this is how we show that something is immovable, that something is big and we move around it while our hand marks where it is in space. These kinds of exercises where you ask your students to hold your hand in space. With little kids, we say, okay, it's a piece of pizza and it's being held in space by a laser and we're trying to get it out, but it stays right there. This is an opportunity for your students to practice focus and a very accessible way to get into body awareness and proprioception just by practicing that fixed point or isolation. Next box, please, Tasha. Then we did proxy, which is the word Broken Box likes to use for when our body becomes a puppet. Here we can start integrating puppetry and scale work. If I'm just the puppeteer, here's the little person here, but I could also be a giant looking down and eating this little person alive. We can make that into a spider or a dinosaur or a cell phone. You know, this is proxying a cell phone. This is miming a cell phone. Mime is when it's invisible, and proxy is when we make puppets out of our hands. Next, Tasha, please. Facial expression, and that's another big theme of what we're doing today, is talking about physical storytelling and physical engagement in the classroom and for ourselves as educators, but also how that links to social emotional learning. One big part of what we do is talk about facial expression in a way that is not judgmental to our students. We don't say, make a sad face or make an angry face. We can say, if our eyebrows go together and our eyes are a little bit closed and our mouth is down like this, it comes across as angry. In order to teach the often unspoken language, often unarticulated definitions of these facial expressions to our students, especially young students or those who are neurodiverse and may not understand facial expression in the same way. Next, Tosh. And here, I also wanted to talk about gesture for a moment, understanding context and culture. Today, we'll also talk about a little bit about gesture in our breakout rooms. We do have an understanding of what different gestures mean. And I'll have the mimes just go through a few different gestures here. We can say so much without words and just with our hands, facial expression, body. But there are also parts of gesture that we may want to interrogate with our students. Oftentimes, if we flip a wrist, it comes off as femme or feminine. Well, let's talk about that with our students. In the same vein, I only caught the end of the last session because I'm on nephew duty today. But if we bring up these things with it's an opportunity to talk with our students in an open dialogue about how body language is coded. And then when we perform, or when we have our students perform or explore different characters physically, it's also an opportunity to say, well, why do you think that person walks that way? Or, well, does this gesture make that person more confident? Why? Does this gesture, what would we say crazy? Why would that person think that other person is crazy? And what is coded here, and what is our social understanding of this gesture? It's all an opportunity to have those discussions, and then perhaps with our work with our students, interrogate, question, and perhaps deconstruct what our nonverbal language is day to day. And last one, Tasha. In all of our work in Broken Box, it's the end of sort of this introduction to you. Yes, you'll get all these slides in email, absolutely. With notes and all. Mime and physical storytelling, and what I mean by that is nonverbal performance, has this ability to require students to essentialize story. When every gesture and every head turn is a line, you start to realize that the clarity of the story gets lost if we do too much, which means the students, in order to do nonverbal physical theater well, they must really, first of all, understand what they want to communicate to the audience or their scene partner, or both, but also not give too much. Just give what is necessary. Mime demands this kind of specificity. And, you know, we talk about that with the actor. I'm going to ask the mimes in the little panel here, my co-teachers, to, on the count of 5, give us a fight. You're having a fight with someone, and I'll count to 5 and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stop. Great. And now I'm going to ask you to do that same fight, and I'm just going to count to 2. Ready, go. 1, 2. And now try to essentialize that, facilitators, into just one gesture. Ready and go. 1. Yeah. And these kinds of exercises, which are so simple to do with your students, really go a long way in teaching us what is needed and what might be extra. If that is just with gesture, imagine then that you can play with these invisible objects. What about if the scene is start to introduce props to your students, or set or costume? If we're doing it in mime, they can play with all of those things and become not just the actor, but also the dramaturg, also the playwright, also the editor. You know, if we have that scene with a beer in our hands, it's different if we have it with a mug of tea in our hands. And it's different if we have it with a martini, and it's different if we have it with, you know, a puppy. And all those things are open to the students to explore if we offer them the tools of invisible objects, which are accessible to everyone. Great. Okay. Now we are going to, that was kind of our way of starting with a silent introduction, getting us moving a little bit, and getting some vocabulary and understanding of what Broken Box does. We're now going to go into breakout rooms. We have let's stop share, and let's have our teachers just introduce themselves, starting with K through 2. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Abiel, and I'll be doing the K through 2 session.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tasha, she, her pronouns. I'll be doing the 3 to 5 session.
Hi, my name is Regan Sims. I'll be doing the 6 through 8 session. I use she, her pronouns.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Zambrano, he, him, his, and I will be facilitating the 9 through 12 session.
And I'm Becky, and I'll be doing the D75. And also, because of this nonsense of me on my phone, I would love to have one of the facilitators from DOE to come with me if they could help share the slide. Otherwise, I'll figure it out in the room, no problem. So we're going to do breakout rooms. Find your teacher. We're each going to play a game or two, and then offer some tips of how to include physical storytelling as well as SEL access, in embodied SEL in your classrooms. And that'll open us up into some discussion, and we'll come back, let's see, toward the end of the session in about 25 minutes or so. I'll give everyone a 2-minute warning when you're in that group. If you have any access needs, feel free to talk to your facilitator about it. And we really hope that this is an opportunity to hear from you, to brainstorm together, and to really be with our colleagues to kick off the end of the semester here together. If you're on your phone, you should still be able to get to the breakout room. I'll ask us to now open the breakout rooms, and we're here for support if you need
And they're
help
there.
finding.
So thank you,
Oh,
Becky.
good.
Everybody can go to your breakout rooms. If you have any trouble, Daryl will go ahead and send you to the breakout room that's appropriate. Thank you so much, Becky, and everyone.
Yeah, and for me, I'm on my phone too. If I just click on my phone, if I touch it with my finger, a little icon comes up on the left and it says breakout rooms. We're gonna close here. I'm going to begin this close by asking Tasha to share slides again. Yeah, as you pull it up, Tasha, I'll just give the prompt. I'd love for folks to write ahas or ideas into the chat. And Tasha will go to the penultimate slide there. Yeah, perfect. Did anything come up for you that you want to learn more about, that sparked your curiosity, something that a colleague did or said that you admired, a new idea that you look forward to sharing with students, something you found challenging, or
Yeah, and I'm going to ask to be concrete, everybody. To Becky's point, in your own breakout sessions, you were posting some amazing stuff. We won't be able to capture that. So this is the place. So if you saw a really great point or note in one of the breakout sessions, sponge it, throw it back in here, but less about how great the session was. We want something concrete. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you read your colleagues' notes here, and we give this just one more minute, we're sharing here something, a slide that'll end up in your take-home packet with all those tips and tools for you. One of them is the Broken Box Ed process. This is kind of to let you know on the back end, the pedagogy that led to this class, both when we teach in class and structure our lesson plans, and when we teach a PD like this, we like this see, move, and imagine organization. First, we observe, we see, we take it in, then we engage with our own body with games and play, and then we imagine how that might offer us a takeaway, whether it's on our scene work or our teaching work. And our essential elements here of our version of MIME, which is embodied learning, collaboration and relationship building and storytelling working together. And next slide, Tasha. At the end here, just inviting you to reach out anytime. You know, I'm the artistic director of Broken Box and co-pedagogy teacher. Tasha is the creative and ed director. If you write to that email, which will also be in your packet, you'll reach either of us, and we are always open to discussing how this work can enrich your classroom. And we're happy to brainstorm and offer any feedback or ideas at any time. You can learn more about our work at brokenboxmime.com. And Tasha, let's end slide. And now for our final thing, some of the groups may have been able to, I'll ask you to go to gallery view. And we're going to give each other little offerings for the end of the semester as we kick off into June. Each room has a little offering for the group. So go ahead into group view. Let's see, here we go. And let's start with our group. We'll go backwards through. So we'll start with our group. We'd like to offer you, everyone, some sunshine. So here we go, D75 group. Let's offer it to them. That's for you. That's for you to get through the end of the year. And let's see. I know Tasha didn't get to her group yet.
We
so
also
think about
didn't.
it.
We also didn't get to her.
Did any other, Matt? Did you get?
Did.
Did you get?
Oh
okay,
yeah,
okay.
9 through 12 did. All right, so ready, 9 through 12. This is for you, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Ooh. Thank you. Thank you. We all are theater people. We understand the value of applause. I already feel better. And Regan, did your group have a gesture?
Oh yeah, we had 3 in 1. So we're
Okay,
gonna
hit it.
offer these things to you. Here we go. Our first gesture is this. Our second is this. And our third is this.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Matt and Nick and Tasha, I know you haven't gotten to it. Everyone think of something, the idea that comes through a light bulb, a cozy carpet so you feel like you're at home in your classroom, a link to hold it together, whatever it is that you need. Let's close our session today by making a personal offering to the group, connecting our abstract thinking and our physical bodies, and a mindset of generosity and support for our colleagues. Here we go. I'll count to 3 and then offer that gesture to each other, whatever comes to mind. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you all so, so much.
Thank you, Becky and Regan and Tasha and Matt and Nick. That was fast and furious, right? There's no way on earth anybody should think now you know all about mime and gesture, etc. hopefully today in both of our sessions is really whetting your appetite and just making us recalibrate and think and check in, because everybody's been on the Autobahn for the last year, trying to just stay afloat. And the summer's a chance for everybody just to take a step back and think about nonverbal communication and what does waiting look like. As we heard in Dominican and from Puerto Rico, the gesture for waiting is different than maybe in kind of general American culture. What I want to do now is I want to just kind of do a wrap up and share some things that have been going on and will be going on for you all. So let me share screen. I hope a bunch of you got to see our Schubert High School Theater Festival. If you haven't yet, Daryl can send the link out again. Somebody say yes?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So go slideshow, current slide. That was from our Broken Box. Okay, a couple upcoming things to share with you. June 11th, you'll be getting an invitation later today from Callie or myself. It's our second now annual Lortel Theater High School Playwriting Fellowship. A young team playwright from each borough, including D75 and D79, have been picked out of 50-some students that submitted pieces even in our virtual year. June 11th will be the virtual stage reading. Each playwright got a mentor, then their plays were directed and will be performed by professional actors. It's kind of amazing. Hopefully those of you at the high school level will really encourage, we want really more writers to keep submitting, and it could be in English classes, et cetera also. So you'll get that on June 11th. June 17th is our Schubert Broadway Junior Virtual Showcase for our year 2 and year 3. That's middle schools that have either just had a new theater teacher or for the most part don't have any theater teacher. And it's a funded program to help use theater to build capacity and sustainability in middle schools to have art at the center of the school culture change. On June 21st, very exciting, we're working on right now editing. Amanda McPhee, who might be on this call, and Michael Pantone and Tara Fishman, a number of your colleagues, Jared LePatin, have been working furiously with our students from all backgrounds, abilities, gender identities, points of view, cultures, races, in the all-inclusive team theater ensemble that I launched 2 years ago. So this is year 3, and they put together an almost hour-long musical virtually. So we'll be sharing that with you. And behind the scenes, I had a conversation just literally yesterday, depending on COVID and how much the Delacorte can expand. Right now, they're limited to 1/3 audience. So they really have to be very careful about how many tickets. If that opens up, we're going to do a theater teacher night this summer. So God willing, so hopefully look out for that. The National Theater Collection that we announced in February, that will be officially launched in the fall. So each of you at the middle school, mostly high school level, will have access to apply for a 3-year grant to have access to the National Theater's collection to use in your classroom. Some of your colleagues, a limited few, have been working on them just now to create worksheets to use them and activate them. Our digital theater project with CMT is going to continue. That's from elementary to high school. And I'm very excited to share with you that next year we're going to be working with their amazing Prospero digital online learning platform to activate teaching lessons so that you can actually, it's a learning platform in your own classroom that live, you can actually be having the video files be helping kind of co-teach and raise prompts and questions that your students might answer provocation, and it's almost like a choose your own adventure type of thing. So some really innovative stuff there. And then just about a month or 2 ago, we had Catherine Zuber, who's the Tony Award winning costume designer for Moulin Rouge, and a couple of her colleagues did a 2-day session with many of our BIPOC students and students from traditionally marginalized communities on other careers in theater. They were so excited that other artists in Moulin Rouge and production managers and company managers want to continue this for us for next year. This is the glimpse of the Lucille Lortel Festival. Just a reminder that many of you have been hopefully been using our remote arts learning partnership units at all grade levels. We can send that link out to you again if you haven't. And that is for student voice, both in terms of writing, performing, but also in terms of technical theater. Would love to, we're going to send out a survey, get some feedback on that. Anybody's interested in being on a focus group, email me later today. If you've been using the units, if you found them really helpful, if you have suggestions, I'd love to have you be part of that focus group, which Callie and I will put together in the next week or two. These are the units, if you remember, using your voice and intro design. Also, remember we launched last year the Remote Arts Learning Partnership video series. The roundabout units, a lot of other things are on this website. We continue to update it. Inside of it, this is just the scroll through. These are just some of the tutorial videos. So many of you really were just kind of catching your breath this year, but this summer I encourage you to go do it and watch some of these. And if you are really interested in have a great new tutorial you want to offer, share, write me about it. We can explore that possibility too. All of the theatrical performances, Broadway Junior, High School Festival, Digital Theater are all there as well. There's a section on units of study. Some of you are going to be sharing some units of study currently in there. There's one that Daryl Embry did on theatrical design, one that Melissa Friedman from Epic Theater did on adaptation and devising, and one from Epic Theater Ensemble, who are an inclusive unit, inclusive company, did a 10-lesson unit on inclusive devising. So all of that is in the website. I'm just trying to go kind of quickly so I can get to something else. This is a shot of our push-pull digital mapping site where students 2 years ago interviewed family members and members of the community about migration patterns and how people got to where they were. Called push-pull, where students and their families or the grandparents pushed out of a country because of war or economics, or were they pulled towards a country maybe for hope or love or marriage or family, etc. All right. Next couple minutes, I just want to share with you, this is our sizzle that Daryl and I put together from the High School Theater Festival. If you have not gotten to see it yet, it lives at schubert.nyc, the full festival. There was a virtual playbill I'd love you to check out, honor the work of 6 of your colleagues. Also, Keeshon Morrow from Repertory, who you met earlier, the Wiz. I wanted all the students from the festival to end with Brand New Day, and I remember that Keeshon students were working on it, so they joined us for the finale. So here is a 5-minute sizzle teaser for the festival.
Welcome to the 7th annual virtual Schubert High School Theater Festival for New York City Public Schools. Now, I don't need to remind you that we've been through a lot this past year, but I am telling you that this generation of theater artists coming up is inspiring. I can't wait to see where these young people go. Honestly, I can't wait to work with many of them.
Despite the strife that we faced in this past year, New Yorkers will always come together to support one another, as these students did, to rebuild what we know will always be our beautiful city.
Where you can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city.
You know, I understand the crucial importance of arts education. I went to a school that really understood that it was vitally important. In Just Another Day 2.0, we are drawn into the very real on-screen drama of how students may feel unsafe, even within the assumed safety of their own homes during remote learning.
Hi, Sailor.
Hi, Haley. How are you doing?
I just want to be done with this project.
Yeah, me too.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Whoa, Sailor, still looking like a hot mess. Oh my god, it was just a joke, relax.
Seriously, this quarantine has everyone so sensitive.
Because what took place here, Southern California was rock, you know? I mean, the whole infrastructure, the foundation was cracked. Know what I'm saying? The seam of that fine fabric, that Los Angeles image that we have, that California, that sunshine. Know what I'm saying?
Theater is about collaboration and community and getting the opportunity to explore our humanity and exercise our empathy.
I want to applaud all of the teachers at the 6 schools represented here tonight. You have such large hearts and you have worked so hard every step of the way to get here tonight. And I applaud you.
We can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I cannot wait until we all get to be on stage and sing and dance together again.
Live from Millennium.
It's Friday night!
It's Friday Night Live!
Results are in for the best student backgrounds of 2020, and despite fierce efforts by Mr. Robinson and his New York City at Dusk background, and Dr. Repertory's picture of Alexis from Schitt's Creek, the winners are the boy who only shows his ceiling fan, the girl who only shows her forehead, and anyone who's ever given us an unwanted house tour. Yay!
Hark, fools! Put up your swords! You know not what you do!
What art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee, Benvolio, look upon thy death!
I do but keep the peace! Put up thy sword, or manage it to part these men with me!
What? Drawn and talk of peace? I hate the words, I hate hell on Montagues and thee. About thee, coward!
Your generation has so many important things to say and a whole new way of saying them, and we want to hear them loud and proud. So I look forward to seeing you in the theater.
I am honored to be here with you today. Crowdsourcing from over 30 truly diverse stories from around the world, the Lexington Drama Club produced Diverse Connections. At times humorous, at times sad, at times poignant, but all powerful.
We can't be labeling other people and pressuring them. It brings them down, and that makes them hide. Remember, we are all humans, and identity takes time. So you are not alone in this.
I know you all have been singing, dancing, and performing throughout this entire time. That's why I'm excited to say the arts are not back because they've been here, but we're bringing them back out, right?
It's such a change for us to live so independently. Freedom, you see, has got our hearts singing so joyfully. Just look around, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Can't you feel a brand new day? Can't you feel a brand new day? Can't you feel a brand new day? Can't you?
Special thank you to our friends from the Schubert Foundation. I'd just like to thank some of the most important first responders this year. Can I ask the theater director teachers just to come out and take a bow? Long live arts education.
Keep supporting theater for our public schools. Every student in a theater class or rehearsal is learning the skills that transcend the stage.
All right. So hopefully, if you hadn't got to see it, that got you excited about the work. That work is just representative of the work that all of you did. That's just, I wanted to shout out Bronwyn, Talia, Lindsay, and Haley, Cherie, Jared, and as we mentioned, Keeshon before, all whose students were in this year's festival. By the way, Brooke and Box Mime and I are in conversations. They do a lot of work with all ages, but they are really a lot of strong work in the kind of the K-6 range. And as you know, I'm always trying to find projects for every grade level and also for different abilities, et cetera. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be launching a partnership to do some pilot work with some of your elementary school classes next year, to be aware. I shared this slide in January. It's a slide I found when I was doing a project with principals. I was trying to think, how can I visually represent the breadth of what theater does and who needs to be at the table. It's just one image, and there's just a couple terms, but just to know that you are charged with, and all of you do, the 360 of theater. It's not just about the performance, it's also about the technical, it's also about the ensemble building in the community. And I just wanted to thank all of you, thank everybody who presented today, Broken Box, Keeshon, the Repertory students. Definitely want to thank Daryl for helping produce the festival virtually this year. Hopefully you'll all be back with us on Broadway next year. We're not doing this virtual thing again, guys. It's just too much editing work. We need to do this live. But you see a glimpse of some different photos on here in different roles that our students participate in. And thank you. Last thing just to add and unshare. Okay. Ooh, why am I so big? Here we go. I like it when I'm smaller. So just a couple of things. If you didn't already, Becky, if you could throw into the chat the teacher packet. It is there, fantastic. Everybody just take a look. We have one of Becky's mime artists behind her, over her shoulder. I can see doing some work, it looked like.
Tasha, do you mind throwing that in, or Matt or Nick? I'm back. Yeah.
If you guys can do it, if not, Callie will send it. Callie also is the arts program manager for music, and their PD is about to start. So Catherine or Daryl, if you could throw the evaluation link into the chat, we'll also email that to you. And just for everybody on this call, know that it didn't make sense to get theatrical resources for in person. It doesn't really make sense. But what I do want to do is, don't tell me now, but email me if you have an online resource beyond some of the things we've already shared with you that you think is kind of gold. Let me know. Send me an email. Send me what it is, the link, where we can get it. If you happen to know how much it is, great. We're going to try and get some stuff. Everybody on this call will get some in-person resources in the fall, for sure. But we'd love to try and get you something virtually if you have an idea. Let's see, Suzanne, I cannot copy the survey link. It will be sent out, so not to worry. Thank you, everybody who's throwing things in the chat. It's been a year, and I'm actually looking forward to what we've learned from it and to grow. So keep in touch. If any of you are moving on to different schools or getting a new position, or a school that you're at is hiring someone else, reach out to me about those also. I know colleagues who are looking. And if any of you are nervous that they're not going to reinstate your position, they're going to keep you as an English teacher or a gen ed teacher, you can let me know that too. Any questions? Any general questions? Can we see your gesture that you had last made and shared that Becky asked you to do? Can we maybe let's end on that?
Hey, Peter, do you know anything about the borough's arts festivals, when they're going to be?
Borough Arts Festivals will be announced by the Borough Arts Director. So I know that they're going to be in June, but I don't know the exact dates. I think it's the 2nd and 3rd weeks of June.
Thank you.
And hopefully you'll get some information. Yeah. And by the way, they certainly are places for you to submit work of your students each year to be showcased. And some of you have been, I know that.
Yeah, we were selected.
Good, break a leg.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm sorry. Thank you for everything. It was amazing.
Bye. Thank you, Peter. I have a quick question, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Only really long questions, no quick questions.
Okay, I'll make it super long. I'll take more time.
Never mind, quick question,
No.
quick.
Okay, so I'm just curious about if you know of any professional development, if it's going on this summer, if you've heard of anything that's linked with the DOE for theater.
I did send out something, or maybe I had Callie send out something from Juilliard. Juilliard are doing it, and they had 15 slots at 50% off what their fee is. We're not doing PD. We need to actually produce the Summer Arts Institute. So we're not slowing down. Yeah, so that's my answer. But I think NYU might be doing something. If I hear stuff, we'll send it out.
Thanks.
Great. Good to see you.